you guys for a bowl of this delicious lima beans with ham hocks.
Ever wonder what your grandparents used to cook every single day back when kitchens smelled like heaven and the flavors hit just right? Well, we've dug up 25 lost African American recipes like ham hocks and lima beans, the iconic Hoppin John, and more that used to be on almost every table. Number 1, smothered pork chops. If comfort food had a champion, it'd be smothered pork chops. This soul food classic has been warming kitchens since at least the early 1900s, back when families had to make every little cut of meat count. Now, here's the magic. When the pork chops get golden and crispy in the pan, then take a slow, cozy bath in a rich onion gravy made from just onions, broth, and a little flour. This smoothing trick keeps the chops juicy and tender while soaking up all the flavorful goodness. Influenced by Southern and Creole cooking, it's a beautiful mix of African, Native American, and European traditions. You can pair it with mashed potatoes, rice, or collard green, and you've got a plate full of history, love, and pure soul. Number 2, ham hocks and lima beans. Ham hocks and lima beans are the ultimate comfort duo, smoky, creamy, and full of history. This dish goes way back to the 1800s in African American kitchens, especially in the rural South, where every part of the pig was used because nothing was wasted. The ham hocks slowly infused the lima beans, or butter beans, as they called them down south, with rich, savory flavor that hugs your taste buds. These beans were a staple thanks to how easy they were to grow and store. And back then, everything cooked in big pots over open fires, shared with family and neighbors. Just serve it with cornbread or rice, and you've got a dish that's not just food. It's a story of survival, love, and community on a plate. Number 3, hoe cakes. Hoe cakes are golden cornmeal pancakes with roots stretching back centuries. The name comes from field hands cooking them on the flat side of a hoe over an open fire. Simple, ingenious, and nourishing. In 1802, Thomas Jefferson even mentioned hoe cakes in the letter, and they later appeared in the Virginia Housewife in 1824. Made with cornmeal, water, or buttermilk, and a pinch of salt, they fried up with crisp edges and tender centers. As you take a bite, the faint crunch before the soft, warm middle takes over. Once a humble field food, hoe cakes became a beloved breakfast or side, proving that even the simplest ingredients can tell powerful stories. Number 4, collard greens with ham hocks. Think greens are boring? Think again. Collard greens have been a soul food staple since slavery, thriving in southern gardens because they grow year-round and withstand tough conditions. When cooks added ham hocks, everything changed. The smoky, salty flavor transformed simple greens into something unforgettable. Recipes for stewed collards appeared as early as the Virginia Housewife in 1824 by Mary Randolph, but African American cooks gave them soul, simmering them low and slow until tender. Also, collard greens actually came to symbolize wealth and endurance in Black culture, often eaten with cornbread on New Year's for luck. More than a side, collards are a dish of survival, strength, and community, passed down for generations. Number 5, Southern cornbread. Have you ever had cornbread so good it disappears before you even notice? That's Southern cornbread for you. Warm, crumbly, and savory, it's been a kitchen essential since the 1800s, when cornmeal was far cheaper than wheat flour. Native Americans first ground corn into bread, but African American families carried the tradition into soul food kitchens, shaping it into something deeply communal. In fact, the Dixie Cookbook of 1885 included versions of egg bread that looked strikingly familiar, and dipping it into pot liquor, the rich broth left behind from cooked green, is the real insider move. That combo is not just eating, it's tasting the history of resilience and togetherness. Number 6, fried chicken. Well, who doesn't love fried chicken? Oh yeah, vegan. That crispy, golden, juicy dish has been a soul food icon for over a century, but its roots stretch back to West Africa, where frying in palm oil was common. Scottish immigrants brought pan frying to the South, and African American cooks elevated into the crunchy, seasoned perfection we know today. By the late 1800s, recipes began appearing in church and community cookbooks, but most people will tell you the best versions were passed down in families, never written. But why did it catch on so widely? Because it was affordable, delicious, and perfect for feeding a crowd at gatherings. Fried chicken just brings the juiciness in every bite. Number 7, chicken and dumplings. Now picture this: tender chicken simmering in a rich broth with soft, fluffy dumplings puffing up on top. Yum! Now come back. Chicken and dumplings is a dish that was rooted in Southern kitchens and embraced in African American homes for generations. It was a thrifty way to stretch leftover chicken and flour into a filling meal, especially during the Depression era, when families relied on pantry staples. Even versions of this dish appear in early 20th century community cookbooks like Good Things to Eat in 1911. You only need to spoon it into a deep bowl, sprinkle it with parsley, and watch the dumplings soak up every drop of flavor. It's the kind of meal that hugs your soul. Number 8, Hoppin John. If you never wondered, Hoppin John, a legendary combo of black-eyed peas, rice, and pork, has been an iconic flavor since the early 1800s. It was traditionally eaten on New Year's Day because this dish symbolized prosperity and hope, especially for African American families stretching limited ingredients into something magical. And the name was either a nod to West African roots or the fun hop sound peas make while cooking. Clever, right? Beyond taste, it's a dish full of meaning, carrying spiritual significance and family traditions. Number 9, sweet potato pie. Sweet potato pie comes to the table with a golden crust, creamy orange filling, and the aroma of cinnamon and nutmeg drifting through the kitchen. Enslaved cooks in the 18th century transformed sweet potatoes into desserts when wheat flour and pumpkin weren't always available. As the 19th century arrived, recipes for sweet potato pudding appeared in cookbooks, like Abby Fisher's What Mrs. Fisher Knows About Old Southern Cooking in 1881, one of the first published by an African American woman. Over time, that pudding evolved into a pie we know today. So, sweet potato pie is the kind of resilience, heritage, and joy baked into one irresistible slice. Number 10, red beans and rice. Red beans and rice is a meal that turns simple ingredients into pure comfort. In New Orleans, it became a Monday tradition because Monday was wash day, and beans could simmer unattended while chores got done. African American cooks perfected the dish, blending African, French, and Caribbean influences into a pot of slow-cooked red kidney beans, flavored with smoked sausage, ham hocks, and turkey necks. The long simmer builds layers of smoky, savory depth, transforming humble beans into something extraordinary. A sprinkle of parsley or green onion is enough to add the finishing touch. Number 11, oxtail stew. Oxtail stew is the ultimate soul food comfort, rich, hearty, and steeped in history. Enslaved Africans and poor communities were given cuts like oxtail, often discarded by others. But through slow cooking, they turned into pure magic. Hours of simmering with garlic, thyme, peppers, and allspice transform the tough meat into fall-off-the-bone tenderness, while the broth deepens into a glossy, flavorful sauce. Oxtail is celebrated across the Caribbean, too, from Jamaican peppery versions to Dominican tomato-based stews. One spoonful, and you'll taste survival turned into celebration, a dish that proves nothing is wasted and everything can be made delicious. Number 12, Chitterlings. Chitlins. Chitterlings, better known as chitlins, are a tradition with deep roots. These pig intestines became part of African American cooking during slavery, when every part of the hog was used as a necessity. Though labor-intensive to clean and prepare, chitlins evolved into a delicacy, made for special occasions, especially around Christmas and New Year's. Seasoned with onions, vinegar, and spices, then boiled and sometimes fried, chitlins carried both strong flavor and strong history. Have a bite and experience the crispy outside giving way to tender, savory meat. For many families, chitlins are a holiday ritual, a taste of ancestry, and a reminder of resilience on the table. Number 13, catfish stew. Catfish stew is Southern comfort in a bowl, especially loved in African American river and coastal communities. Catfish was easy to catch, affordable, and had a mild flavor that paired perfectly with bold seasonings. Simmer it with tomatoes, onions, and bell peppers, and you've got a rich, hearty stew that feels like home. And actually, catfish had been on the table for centuries, carrying African flavors that blended beautifully with Southern cooking to create timeless stews. Served alongside rice or cornbread, the first bite makes it clear why this dish carried families through hard times. It's practical, nourishing, and soulful. And don't worry, this catfish won't catfish you. One taste, and it's the real deal. Community in a pot. Number 14, liver and onions. Liver and onions is one of those dishes that divides people. You either grew up loving it or you avoided it at all costs. And you can guess the reason why it stuck around. To be honest, this humble dish has deep roots in African American cooking. Liver was affordable, packed with iron and nutrients, and paired with sweet caramelized onions to balance its bold flavor. Fried or sautéed, it was usually served with mashed potatoes or greens, making it a complete hearty meal. Even at a time, liver and onions were considered a health booster meal in Southern homes, since it was resourceful, nourishing, and surprisingly tasty when done right. Number 15, fried okra. With roots in West Africa, okra traveled across the ocean during the slave trade and became a Southern kitchen staple. Slice the pods, coat them with cornmeal or flour, then fry until golden and crunchy. And the result would be like a crispy, slightly nutty snack that's impossible to stop eating. Okra also has been called the perfect sidekick because it pairs with everything from fried chicken to catfish stew. Whether served in big family dinners or as a quick snack, fried okra carries history, culture, and flavor in every bite, one that crackles with every crunch. Number 16, turkey necks and rice. Turkey necks and rice is the kind of dish that proves patience pays off. What starts as a tough cut transforms into tender, fall-off-the-bone meat when slow cooked with onions, peppers, and spices. The broth turns rich and savory, and when ladled over fluffy rice, every grain soaks up that flavor. Then pour that juicy goodness over rice. Watch the sauce spread like velvet. But did you know this dish showed up in classic cookbooks like The Welcome Table by Jessica B. Harris, where it's praised as a symbol of resourcefulness? This recipe was a survival food during the Depression, and now it's a beloved comfort meal. Number 17, mac and cheese, Southern style. Who doesn't have a childhood memory tied to mac and cheese, that cheesy bite of comfort after school? Southern style is creamy, cheesy, and baked until golden on top. A dish that shines at Sunday dinners, holidays, and church gatherings. African American cooks took a European classic and turned it into a soul food masterpiece with layers of gooey cheese, seasoned sauces, and sometimes that irresistible crunchy crust. Soon, Thomas Jefferson's enslaved chef, James Hemings, introduced mac and cheese to America after training in France. And in the 20th century, Black families across the South had perfected and claimed it as their own, making this dish a tradition and history for generations. Number 18, pork neck bones and gravy. Pork neck bones and gravy takes humble beginnings and turns them into something rich and unforgettable. Neck bones, often overlooked cuts, were slow cooked with onion, garlic, and spices until the meat turned tender and juicy. That thick, savory gravy, made from the drippings, perfect poured over rice or creamy mashed potatoes. This dish has roots in the make-do cooking of the Reconstruction era, when Black families created whole meals from cuts others overlooked. It's written about in oral histories and praised in soul food cookbooks. Number 19, sweet bread pudding. What if I told you that even day-old bread could become one of the most comforting desserts in food history? With roots in slavery and Reconstruction, it turned stale bread into a custardy dessert by soaking it in milk, eggs, sugar, and spices. With time, recipes appeared in cookbooks, like What Mrs. Fisher Knows About Old Southern Cooking in 1881 in the U.S., where similar custard-based puddings were described. Then in the 20th century, bread pudding became a staple at church socials, family gatherings, and Sunday suppers. Beyond being thrifty, it was also comforting. Every spoonful reminded families of sweetness carved out of struggle. Number 20. Mustard greens. Few vegetables carry as much history in food as mustard greens, simmered tender and seasoned to perfection. Enslaved Africans brought seeds and knowledge of greens with them, cultivating hardy plants like mustard, collards, and turnips in garden plots. These greens carried both nutrition and symbolism of bitter leaves that softened when cooked slowly, with smoked meats, much like hardship softened by perseverance. Back in the early 1900s, greens were so central, they appeared in the Boston Cooking School Cookbook of 1896 and countless church fundraiser collections in Black communities. Can you even believe pot liquor, the broth left behind, was considered so nourishing that FDR himself declared it part of Southern heritage in the 1930s? That broth is literally keeping traditions alive till now. Number 21. Pineapple Upside Down Cake. Pineapple upside down cake became a mid-20th century showstopper in African American kitchens. Its rise linked to the boom of canned fruit. In 1925, the Hawaiian Pineapple Company, later Dole, sponsored a national recipe contest, which popularized this cake across America. During the 1940s and 50s, it appeared in Black community cookbooks and Ebony magazine, becoming a go-to dessert for holidays and church potlucks. It was affordable, vibrant, and easy to prepare. It carried a sense of celebration even when budgets were tight. This was a statement piece, proof that African American cooks could bring both elegance and creativity. Number 22. Fried green tomatoes. Fried green tomatoes may feel like old Southern tradition, but their rise actually came in the early 20th century, though popularized by the 1991 film. Fried green tomatoes, recipes for them appeared much earlier in African American and Southern community cookbooks, like 50 Years in a Maryland Kitchen, and later in the Atlanta Constitution newspaper, recipes of the early 1900s. Black home cooks embraced the dish because it made use of unripe tomatoes that might otherwise spoil before ripening. Dipped in cornmeal and fried crisp, they offered a tangy crunch, perfect alongside fish or chicken. Their popularity reflects the ingenuity of turning seasonal abundance into something unforgettable. Number 23. Chicken livers. Who knew the most overlooked part of a chicken turned out to be the tastiest? Enslaved African Americans were often given the organ meats, livers, gizzards, and hearts, while the prime cuts went elsewhere. When the late 19th century came into view, recipes for fried chicken livers began appearing in African American community cookbooks and even in the Southern Cookbook. Wrapped high in iron and protein, they offered both nutrition and affordability. Seasoned, drenched in flour or cornmeal, and fried until crispy, they became a comfort dish passed from kitchen to kitchen. Number 24. Pecan pie. Pecan pie's roots stretch back to the late 19th century, when African American cooks in the South began adapting older molasses-based pies to showcase native pecans. Pecans had been cultivated for centuries by indigenous peoples, and after the Civil War, they became widely grown in states like Georgia and Louisiana. The first printed recipes for pecan pie appeared in the St. Louis Cookbook in 1898, but it was African American home cooks who carried the tradition into holiday tables, church socials, and Sunday dinners. In 1902, sweetened with molasses, pecan pie started its journey, as a centerpiece for Southern celebration, later embracing Caro syrup as well. And with that, pecan pie became more than a treat. Number 25. Black-eyed pea soup. Black-eyed pea soup is comforted with a story. One bowl full of flavor, survival, and tradition. Black-eyed peas came to America from West Africa during the transatlantic slave trade, and by the 1800s, they were a staple in African American kitchens. Slow simmered with onions, garlic, peppers, and often a smoked ham hock or turkey leg, the peas break down into a rich, heavy broth. Believe it or not, black-eyed peas were first grown in the South Carolina Low Country as early as the 1600s. They became a symbol of luck, especially in soups and stews eaten on New Year's Day. Each spoonful is heritage you can taste, warm, filling, and full of resilience. So, which of these lost soul food classics made your mouth water the most? Think you could cook them better than Grandma? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And while you're at it, tap that subscribe, hit the bell, and maybe even share. Your future self will thank you, and your taste buds too.